case of Nnamdi Kanu has taken another shocking turn as Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traore, takes a bold step to secure the IPOB leader's freedom. Reports indicate that Traore recently visited Russia, where he held discussions with President Vladimir Putin regarding Kanu's release and the broader issue of self-determination in Africa.
During my recent visit to Moscow, I met privately with the President of the Russian Federation. Our discussion went beyond trade and security to address the moral duty of global leaders to defend justice. I raised the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, explaining that his case is bigger than one man. It reflects what Africa stands for in the eyes of the world, and whether we will continue to silence our own voices for justice or unite to uphold universal human rights. I explained clearly that Nnamdi Kanu's voice has awakened millions. Agree or disagree with his methods, his message resonates with many Africans who feel unheard, unrepresented, and neglected. I told him that Kanu's imprisonment has become a symbol not of division, but of the unfinished business of African freedom. The Russian president listened closely. He asked questions not as a politician seeking advantage, but as a man trying to understand the deeper current behind this issue. We spoke about the political implications, but also about humanity, the simple truth that no one should be punished indefinitely for speaking their mind, especially when that speech seeks justice. I told him plainly, what happens to Nnamdi Kanu affects the moral balance of Africa. When one voice of freedom is silenced, every other voice grows weaker. And when one African is unjustly caged, the rest of us remain partly enslaved. He nodded and responded thoughtfully. He said, Africa deserves to breathe freely. It deserves leaders who protect its conscience, not imprison it. Those words struck me deeply. I urged him to use his country's diplomatic weight to open channels of conversation, not confrontation with the Nigerian government. I made it clear that the goal is not interference but mediation, not pressure but peace. The Russian Federation, I said, can help foster dialogue that respects Nigeria's sovereignty while promoting justice and humanitarian principles. He agreed that lasting peace is built not by suppressing truth but by confronting it. He said Russia would be open to facilitating talks that encourage a peaceful and fair resolution, and to standing with African nations that seek equity rather than exploitation. We both understood that Africa's struggles are not isolated. Every unjust imprisonment, every silenced truth, weakens the moral foundation of the global order. The same world that speaks loudly of democracy must also listen when Africans demand it in their own way. As I left Moscow, I carried with me a renewed belief that justice can still prevail, not through force, but through cooperation and moral courage. The Russian president's response gave me hope that the world is beginning to understand Africa's new tone. We are no longer asking for permission to be free. We are asserting our right to live in dignity. Nnamdi Kanu's case has become more than a legal issue. It is now a moral test for Nigeria, for Africa, and for all who claim to stand for justice. If we can unite to ensure his fair release and humane treatment, then perhaps we can also unite to redefine Africa's destiny. I will continue to speak, not out of sentiment, but out of duty. History will not forgive silence when justice calls. I believe that one day soon, Africa will look back and remember this moment as the turning point when nations began to act with conscience, and when the world began to listen to Africa not as a subject, but as a partner. For Nnamdi Kanu, and for every voice silenced by power, we will not stop until freedom and fairness triumph. I listened to his recent speech in which he said he is dying inside, that the only thing that can revive him is Biafra, and I was heartbroken. Those words were not merely a cry for independence. They were the cry of a man who has given everything, even his health, for what he believes is right. No leader with a conscience can ignore such a cry. When I heard him speak of death and despair, I felt the pain of every African freedom fighter who has ever been misunderstood, persecuted, or abandoned by the very people he sought to defend. His voice reminded me of the days of our ancestors of Lumumba, Sankara, and Nkrumah, men who were demonized when alive and celebrated only after they were gone. Must we repeat that cycle? Must Africa always wait until her heroes are dead before she honors their sacrifices? I told the Russian president exactly that Nnamdi Kanu's situation has gone beyond the boundaries of politics. It is now a humanitarian concern, an issue of conscience for the entire African continent. I said to him, If this man dies in silence, history will not only question Nigeria, it will question all of us who had the power to speak and chose to remain silent. The Russian president looked at me for a long moment and said, "President Traore, your voice carries the anger of truth. No man who fights for his people should die in chains." Those words struck deep. They reminded me that justice is not a Western concept. It is a universal principle that must be defended everywhere, especially in Africa, where oppression still wears new faces and speaks new languages. I told him that Africa is not asking for pity, nor for external rescue. We are asking for fairness, for mutual respect, and for space to define our destiny. Nnamdi Kanu's struggle may have been born in Nigeria, but the spirit behind it lives in every African who refuses to be silent in the face of injustice. I emphasize that his detention, despite court rulings and international appeals, is eroding trust in Africa's democratic process. It tells the world that in Africa, justice can still be ignored when it becomes inconvenient to those in power. That is a dangerous message, one that undermines every effort we are making to build strong, credible, and accountable governments. The Russian president agreed that Africa must not be treated as a continent of perpetual victims, but as a partner capable of determining its own moral course. He acknowledged that Moscow would be willing to open quiet diplomatic channels to encourage Nigeria toward a resolution that preserves both its sovereignty and its humanity. When I left that meeting, I felt the weight of our shared responsibility as leaders. I realized that the fate of one man, somewhere in a detention cell, could shape the future of how the world perceives Africa's moral integrity. Since that day, I have instructed my diplomatic team to maintain communication with our Russian counterparts. The goal is simple: to transform sympathy into strategy and empathy into effective diplomacy. We must ensure that dialogue replaces delay and that compassion replaces condemnation. To the Nigerian government, I once again say this with all respect: release Nnamdi Kanu, not as a concession, but as a gesture of courage. Let his freedom mark the beginning of national healing. Let it show the world that Nigeria remains a land where justice still breathes and where leadership still carries a human heart. To the African Union, I say, the time to act is now. The silence of our continental institutions has become too heavy, too loud. We cannot continue to preach unity while ignoring the pain of those who cry for freedom within our own borders. To our youth, the ones watching, questioning, and sometimes losing faith, I say this: do not give up on Africa. Change comes slowly, but it comes surely. Men like Nnamdi Kanu have planted seeds that will one day bloom into nations of justice, dignity, and equality. And to Nnamdi Kanu himself, if my words ever reach you, hold on. You are not forgotten. Across this continent, millions are praying for you, millions are speaking your name, and millions are carrying forward the vision you represent. The struggle you began is no longer yours alone. It belongs to every African who refuses to kneel before injustice. Africa is rising not with weapons, but with wisdom, not through chaos, but through courage. And we will not rest until the conscience of this continent is restored. If I must travel again, if I must speak to more world leaders, I will do so without hesitation, because the life of one African who speaks truth to power is worth more than the silence of 1,000 who choose comfort over conviction. In every era, there comes a moment when history pauses and waits to see who will stand for what is right. This is that moment. For Nigeria, for Africa, for Nnamdi Kanu, justice delayed is not just justice denied, it is freedom betrayed. And Africa will not betray her own again.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
We understand that the court has denied Nnamdi request to an external medical center.
Well, yes, that's quite a surprising ruling today. We were served all of a sudden, as a matter of surprise, an ambush with the medical report, which the court ordered the Nigerian Medical Association to submit since 26th September. So that medical report that we were served is dated 10th October. And it was today that we were served in open court with it. So, well, you can say that the defense had no ample opportunity to react to it. It was more an ambush. But nonetheless, the court had ordered further that Nnamdi Kanu be examined by the Nigerian Medical Association. That examination was never carried out, and the order was entered on 26th September and restated on 8th October. That part of the order was disobeyed. They never examined him. So the report is based on some informal meeting they held with Nnamdi Kanu as far back as 18th September at the DSS headquarters in Abuja. They were invited to do that by the DSS. The court and the DSS are not the same. So what we have in court, or what we were served in court today, quite frankly, we cannot be sure where it emanated from. Did it emanate from assumption, or did it emanate from the examination carried out on 18th September before the court entered an order on 26th September? So we were quite surprised, flummoxed, and we felt a bit disadvantaged, but the proceedings had to continue apace as the court wanted it. So at the end of the day, the court made a conclusion and a ruling that Nnamdi Kanu must enter his defense from the 24th of October and conclude his defense by the 30th of October. So basically, it's a 6-day trial window that we're looking at there.
So how fit is the defense now? How fit is the defense counsel, defense team particularly, entering the defense now? How ready are you guys?
Well, you see, lawyers are trained to be ready for any eventuality. But the justice of the matter is another case altogether. I choose not to comment on that.
So wait, we have to comment. Sorry, sir. I'm one of the members of the legal team. This is a public document brought in by the medical council through the prosecution. So they serve us this thing today. And if you watch there, in this particular medical report, you can see all the ailments they say that Nnamdi Kanu is suffering from. And surprisingly, somebody that has all these particular issues, you now, in the last paragraph, to say that from your own distance, you can stand trial. Somebody that is passing through all these ailments. Having said that, too, go to make a consequential order. Say, please, go and examine him and report back to me. They never examine Nnamdi Kanu, only for them to come up with this report. Nigerian Medical Council, they should be very careful, because this is a professional body and you are expected to act professionally. Yes. In your report, you are expected, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a practicing lawyer. You are expected to show that on this particular day, you obtain his specimen. We carried out this lab, and the lab showed this. We are talking about somebody's life, for goodness sake. You cannot just enter into your office room and you open your system and start writing trash. And you want court to rely on it. And surprisingly, we are expected to take a date for us to go. And because when the court gave us an opportunity to respond, we are ought to have taken a date to confer from our clients. It was when Nnamdi Kanu said, what? We are the people that even gave Nnamdi Kanu this thing. When the court was about to sit, we are talking about somebody's life. Of course, as a matter of this thing, the Igbos are on trial. This is a war against the Igbos. Of course, you are here when the president ordered the police and the army to go and negotiate and have a discussion with the terrorists and the non-bandits in this town. With their arms.
And somebody that is exercising his rights as given to him by the Constitution, both local and international legislations, and you say that he should enter trial. Trial for what? What is it? What are you trying for? Do you have even jurisdiction? Does the court have jurisdiction to entertain this particular matter? Somebody that has been discharged by Court of Appeal. So we don't want to go into that. This is a trial. Again, these Igbos are on trial. This is a persecution, not a prosecution. And I stand by it. And I'm calling the entire Nigerians. It's the Igbos and the Nnamdi Kanu today. It can be another person tomorrow. And we should stand against it. That's why we are protesting. Why should we be treating a human being like this? simply because the offense Nnamdi Kanu committed is because he's an Igbo man. Can you do it somebody from the north? Can you do it somebody from the west? You cannot. People have been agitating. So boy has been going around agitating for Republic of Oduduwa. Have you arrested him? The answer is no, because Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo, and they feel that nobody can speak with him for him, and we are saying no to that. We can never be intimidated. Nobody is more Nigerian than anybody. Nobody is a second-class citizen in this country, and we are going to fight it. I'm begging judiciary not allow yourself to be used. They know what they are doing. Are you telling me that it was on the 13th? Court gave you 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you now produce the document on the 13th, and you kept it with you. You do not allow us to go and see our client with it, only for you to serve us 5 minutes before court is sitting, and you ask us to respond. Is this injustice or injustice, for goodness sake? We should call evil. And when you call evil, it will stop existing. That is our submission.
All right, let's delve into the issue of the court trial that has actually been adjourned to 23rd of this month. That is later this month. That is, I think, next week, right? Yeah, of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, we all have seen the need for this protest that some of you claim is politically orchestrated by Traore, that he's trying to, how did they even put it, that he's trying to rip the Igbos and all that. Some of you are just baseless and senseless. Your so-called political elites and politicians, Igbo politicians, failed to do the needful by calling for the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu. Let us focus on Nnamdi Kanu, because Nnamdi Kanu has been fighting for marginalization of Igbo for a very long time. Now, Nnamdi Kanu represents Igbo, and that is why he is being treated the way he is treated. Now, Nnamdi Kanu has been somebody who have also protested for the immediate release of some certain people who have been held unjustly. Even some of the so-called criminalized politicians that we continue to see today, who are still calling for the government to continue to keep him. For example, Ojo Okalu, we saw the video yesterday. I posted it. You can check, one of the videos I posted yesterday, where Ojo Okalu said that there is no need calling for the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu. Though I know the reason why he's saying that, because he is still scared of Nnamdi Kanu. Most of these politicians are scared of him. There is no way you will be scared of Nnamdi Kanu if you don't have any link, with corruption. It is because of your corrupt. That is why others who want justice are calling for the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu. You are scared. And that is why I'm still giving an A1 to Traore. Call him a politician, call him whatever you feel like. It is your business. The reality is that he is doing the needful, and he is doing what your so-called Igbo politicians, Igbo elites, and them so-called Igbo men have failed to do. Now, this is the time we need this protest, because it is so clear, like a crystal, that the Zoo government have decided not to release Nnamdi Kanu. Go anywhere, quote me anywhere. It is now clear like a crystal that they are not ready to release him. Because what is this shamble all about? What is this shamble? Just listen to the video, listen to that interview by the lawyer. I knew justice wasn't going to come, but we were all praying, and we were all just being optimistic that something will come, despite the fact that this man, Motosho, was claiming to facilitate everything, to rush everything, as if, he was pitying Nnamdi Kanu, but the fact still remains that these people will always be the zoo and corrupt, as messed up as the country is. Now it is clear. So for those of you who continue to speak ill about the protest, the reality is that you people do not have any good plans for Nnamdi Kanu. Yes, because you cannot tell me that after all this while, somebody has come out to say, we are going to march to Aso Rock. We are marching to Aso Rock. It is either they release him or they release him. He's not giving them two options. He's giving them only one option, and that is releasing Nnamdi Kanu. And yet, you people have issues with that. What do you people really want, Ndibo? It is not about who is coming out to call for his release. If you have problem, with the protest, why haven't you come out ever since? I saw one woman, she came out and she was talking trash. Please stop discouraging people who are ready and willing to do the needful for the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu. It is because of the fact that most of you are scared, because if Nnamdi Kanu comes out, the way some of you have been looting and making money online using Nnamdi Kanu, most of you who continue to do support us. We are calling for support, online support and all that, raising funds here and there, because that is why most of you do not want him to come out, despite whoever, if he like, let it be an Hausa man who is calling for his immediate release. So far he comes out. That is the most important thing, because it is now clear to the world, to every nation, to the country, to Igbos, that this thing is not only about Nnamdi Kanu. It is the same thing Nnamdi Kanu has been fighting for. It has been the Igbo war, which is still ongoing. Go to Biafra land today, you will see that the zoo army are still engaging Biafran soldiers, buying them. Go to Olu, go to Umaka, go to some certain axes of Biafran land, enter Enugu, enter some states, and they are doing it with the approval of the so-called governors. Please, it is now clear to even the most confused person that the zoo are doing everything possible to keep Nnamdi Kanu there, until we rise up as Igbos, until we come together and join this protest and do the needful. The reality is that nothing is going to be done. The government are not ready to release him. The government are not ready, to give in to whatever you think, except we do the needful by standing tall and fighting for the immediate release of Nnamdi Kanu. We will continue to say, free Nnamdi Kanu now. And as of that protest, we will do everything possible to make sure that protest stands. Whether politically orchestrated, whether politically driven or not, it is none of our business. The reality is that at least let it yield to something. Let it yield to something. Let me tell you the truth. The zoo government are even scared of that protest, because they know what Traore can actually do about it. Yesterday I came out and spoke against Peter Obi, because he failed to do the needful. Political or no political, he failed to do the needful, and that is just the reality. Now, so it be for my mouth. Thank you once again for joining us on this wonderful YouTube channel. One thing we'll keep on doing here is to give you more and more updated news and information on everything trending and happening in Biafran territory. Make sure you share this video and make it go viral.